A nigga like me, man, I love the game. I love the hustle, man. I be feeling like one of them ball-playing niggas, you know? Like Bird or Magic or something. Yeah, you know, a nigga got dough. A nigga could leave the league. But if I leave, the fans still gonna love me, man? I get love out here in Harlem, man. I done sold coke on these streets, man. Hash, weed, heroin. As long as niggas is feeling it, a nigga like me can hustle it. That's my gift in life, eh? You know? What? The fuck you laughing at, B?
You, man. Funny, man. You a hustling motherfucker, man. For real, baby. You fucking killing me, man.
Well, you know me, baby.
I want to talk about the factors that contribute or make a contribution to wealth throughout history. There are certain factors that many economists and scientists have really discovered that really contribute to or make a contribution to a nation's wealth or a nation's success. So I want to. The number one resource that contributes to that is not money, as you may think it is. It's not gold. It's not natural resources. That's not what it is. I know we've been told that, but that's not really what makes that contribution. What makes that possible or feasible is something called human capital. And I'm going to give you the definition of human capital just so you have a fundamental understanding of it. I mentioned it before in other videos, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it in this one. So
Human capital theory has become a major theoretical construct for understanding a country or community's profound socio-economic changes and for strategizing how to spur creation of wealth. Basically, human capital is everything inside of a worker's head. A person's stock of basic intelligence, experiences both in and out of the workplace, education, work habits, trainings received, social and personality attributes, energy level, judgment, trustworthiness, initiative, and creativity embody the ability to perform labor so as to produce economic value. These resources are the total capacity of the people that represent a form of wealth which can be directed to accomplish the goals of the nation or state or a portion thereof. Horace Mann is referred to as the father of human capital theory and developed the theory that the economic value of people is based on their educational achievements, skills, and knowledge. He believed that investing in one's education would improve the quality of workers and therefore increase the wealth of the community. Horace Mann contended that schooling would ultimately end poverty.
human capital is basically a term that refers to a stock of attributes embodied in the ability to produce economic value, money, wealth, etc. In actuality, it encompasses the knowledge, experience, intelligence, skills, talents, abilities, organization, judgment, and wisdom possessed within an entire group of individuals or people. So that is what human capital is. One of the best examples that I can probably think of off the top of my head would be the Japanese people. They possess very little natural resources, but they're high on human capital, very high in human capital. And they have the third largest economy in the world. That little small strip of islands that was the warring states, you know, literally 150 years ago. So, or what they call daimyos or whatever. But anyway, the Japanese are a great example.
Tokyo, crowded subways and cluttered streets, fused with neon chaos. Business-like order and efficiency. Ancient traditions rubbing shoulders with the ultra-modern. With their wealth and independence, it's the youth of Tokyo who drive a lot of the economy. Often living with their parents, with a high income and few financial commitments, they prowl the streets poised to throw their paycheck at the latest fashion fad. Driven by its huge population and frenzied economy, Tokyo is constantly under construction. Few buildings are older than 25 years. The result is a cityscape that can feel like the set of a science fiction film.
The Japanese people have a high average IQ, north of 100, and I think it's 110, 111, but they also possess a high sense of discipline and organization, which in turn allows them to build an extremely functional and productive society. Conversely, there are many bad or poorly managed countries who have poor government, poor leadership, and it shows. And, let me give you just a brief synopsis of that.
Underlining all of this is the trap of bad governance, and it just seems to compound all the other traps.
30 or 40 years ago, most of the developing world was badly governed. The classic example is China. But China managed to turn around dramatically, completely reversing its policies. The reason it was able to do so, and India the same, was these are big societies in which there are a lot of educated people. Now, by the time you get to the countries of the bottom billion, like something like the Central African Republic, there's just a handful of educated people. The society isn't training very many, and a lot of the ones who are trained leave. And so there just isn't a critical mass that can have the confidence to diagnose the problem and implement change. And so the societies of the bottom billion reformed much more slowly than the successful societies.
So in actuality, what this guy was just talking about was that, countries with high populations have a higher concentration of individuals with human capital, which in turn are able to lift the whole society. This is true throughout human history, the more you produce, the more inventions, the more a group, or what we sometimes call the vanguard group, the more you have that group of individuals, or the talented 10th, as Brother Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois was talking about, the more you can lift the whole of the society. So that is why he had his talented 10th theory. I think I kind of don't see where he was wrong, because he just observed human capital. He was basically speaking on human capital before they coined the term. Let's take, for example, let's just take Nigeria.
The Delta is an area of approximately 27,000 square miles in southern Nigeria, where the Niger River meets the Gulf of Guinea. And it's the source of the country's vast oil wealth.
Nigeria as a government does not know how much crude oil is lifted in Nigeria today.
Here, you're as likely to fill up your car from an illegal oil stand on a street corner as you are from a gas station.
Nigeria is a big, huge country. Economically, it's a huge market. Nigeria is the 6th largest producer of crude oil, and I think 3rd or 4th producer of natural gas.
Nigeria exports millions of barrels of oil per day, and almost all of it comes from the Delta. This has created a contrasting region of those who have tapped into the oil money and those who haven't. There aren't a lot of options for work. Corruption and theft has leached away the Delta's resources. If you're lucky, you can scrape together a living, filling tires on the side of the road for 50 cents apiece.
So in spite of the fact that Nigeria has all the wealthiest resources, in probably the most, well, I wouldn't say the most, I would say the Congo is probably the most mineral rich. You have to excuse me, I got my son today, but we're Nigeria, Congo, these are some of the most mineral rich nations on the face of the earth. However, they're not able to amass what they call critical mass to the point where they've reached enough highly educated and talented individuals who possess this human capital to lift the nation as a whole. I mean, and the same can be said for us, African Americans in America. There's a brain drain going on pretty much in our nation, because you have the best and brightest of our nation basically not being, they're being siphoned out, taking the other. So they're not really able to lift us because there's a separation, which then lends to the point of the problem of integration and what integration did to us, But I mean, when you start looking at human capital and the black community, and you start separating the best and brightest and sending them to Harvard and Yale and not Tuskegee and Fisk and Howard and Spelman and Morehouse, and you start taking them and having them work out in Silicon Valley, and they're not living in the same communities, they're not, patronizing or taking those dollars and, funneling those dollars in the black community, then you start seeing, human capital theory really explains a lot of why African Americans are suffering the way we are.
Let me give you, let's take Detroit, Michigan, and the recent reports from the Pew Foundation and U.S. Census. They showed them pretty clearly that they ranked all the cities and urban cities in the United States. The 10 poorest cities ranked 3 months ago in the entire United States. The 10 poorest cities, the 10 most dangerous cities, with the highest home foreclosure rates, with the highest high school dropout rates, with the highest imprisonment rates. Guess what they were? Cities where black folk are the majority populations. Detroit led the list in every category. In a city that's 85 to 90% black, and Arabs own 90% of the businesses. In a city that's 85 to 90% black, and Arabs own 90% of the businesses.
So the black population of Detroit is overwhelmingly unproductive, overwhelmingly. I mean, so there's pretty much an imbalance of those who are productive and those who are unproductive. And we are mostly unproductive as a people. I mean, that's a fact. And because we're unproductive, per capita, our numbers are so high, the community is not able to be lifted into, levels of success. I mean, there just is. There's an overabundance of low-income workers with low skills, low education within the black community. I mean, I'm not shitting on my own people. I mean, we have a few people within the black community that provide jobs and opportunity for, black men and women with low skills and low education. We do. We have those people that produce, for example.
There's clearly an underemployed class of black men who have not necessarily gone to jail, may have only completed a certain level of school, maybe only had a certain level of training. How do we deal with this underemployed class of black men that aren't dealing with the same kind of challenges, but some nuanced ones? Because I would bet that there is an opportunity there that sometimes we're just missing.
Yeah, and I don't think we're doing as good a job as we could focusing on what we are doing, on where the jobs are and where they're going. So we talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Not to say that there's anything wrong with targeting construction trades or manufacturing jobs or the like, but we all know those jobs not only are gone, but they're not coming back. But we all know those jobs not only are gone, but they're not coming back.
They're not coming back.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, there are an estimated 2.6 million black-owned businesses in the U.S. Roughly 10%, or 260,000, are construction firms. For the next few minutes, we'll discuss efforts to grow these businesses. When we talk about construction jobs specifically, though, what is it about that arena that's so attractive to people?
Well, it's a job maker to begin with, and there's a lot of heritage from when we were slaves in the South. We did the construction for the South. We built the buildings, built the roads, And so now the great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren of those carpenters and such have the craft, and they put it to use.
So the manufacturing and the, you know, you heard at the beginning, you know, most of our companies are construction companies with, you know, that's a big thing for black people. But sadly enough, there aren't enough manufacturing construction jobs to, you know, to reach us, get us to that critical mass, which I'm gonna wear that word out. So get ready, because I got a little, you know, work to do on this video, but I'm doing this nice and slow in sections, and I'm trying to use my cell phone to do it this time instead of sitting down with my laptop and just blurting it out. I'm trying to put it together in pieces. Shout out to Black Patriarch. He's the brother that that inspired me to do this video. All of these videos and clips are from his channel. Shout out to the brother. And I think this is probably one of his most brilliant videos. African Americans don't understand economics, but I'm just gonna slice it, remix it, and put it back out for my channel and let people know the same information. So shout out to the brother. Now, back to what I was saying, because we don't have enough to uplift the community, we haven't reached that critical mass. There it is again. We're so easily gentrified. We're so easily pushed around because, quite frankly, we're helpless. There's nothing we can do to stop people. Nothing. One of the things that really sickens my stomach is when I watch, you know, I hear stories from time to time. I'm not gonna get into gentrification, but like I just said, we're helpless. And sometimes you want to, you know how, like, if you lose a family member or somebody that was really important to you, you don't want to sell certain things because it just has a sentimental value to you. Let's look at Harlem, for instance. Harlem, white people are coming into Harlem and buying Zora Neale, they're buying Langston Hughes' house, home, place he lived in, Duke Ellington. They're buying Zora Neale Hurston's place. I mean, it's just, Marcus Garvey Park. Like, it's going to be all in probably in a few short years, probably in 10 years or less, it's going to be all white. No black people can afford to live there. And it's going to be all white people living near Marcus Garvey Park. Think about that. What does that sound like?
This is a condo, very expensive, $500,000, $1 million units, across from Marcus Garvey Park.
Harlem is changing. Widely considered the historic cultural capital of Black America, the neighborhood situated in New York City's Upper Manhattan area looks very different today from its life in previous decades. Where there were once crumbling tenement housing complexes and a critical lack of infrastructure and services, there now stand luxurious new condominiums and a variety of upscale urban amenities. The cityscape is not the only thing that has changed in Harlem. The population is looking increasingly wealthier and whiter as newcomers continue to move to the neighborhood, while previous residents find themselves moving out as housing prices and the cost of living skyrocket. Harlem community activist Nellie Hester Bailey says the neighborhood's experience with gentrification raises important questions about who benefits most from urban economic revitalization.
Well, when you redevelop houses, in any housing, of course it's good. The issue is why, and this is a standard reply of so many old-timers in Harlem, why is it that the development here was only worthwhile when whites moved in? Why didn't we see this? Why was this not done for us? Why were we allowed to live in the misery of drug infections and vacant lots that was littered with glass and garbage and needles? And I think that's a legitimate question. And it's fair for one to ask what undergirds all of this, this public policy and legislation, if it's not race and class.
So in essence, if we were productive, we would be able to be stop this, because there would be no gentrification if we're productive, if we're all, we have the human capital and we're able to reach that critical mass. Then we would be able to, effectively mount a defense and stop such things, because, they wouldn't be able to outprice us. The only issue is we have a very difficult time understanding the principle of productivity. We just do. I mean, productivity has become, it's almost a 4-letter word to a lot of black people. I mean, mainly because we've embraced socialism and Marxism. We just have. Which in a capitalistic society, that's like saying I'm gonna go on a football field and play basketball. It's just certain rules. You can't bounce the ball. I mean, you can't bounce a football. You can't, it's just certain things you can't do. Or if you're gonna go play football, you're gonna get in foul trouble trying to play football on a basketball court. And that's what we're doing. And how are we doing that? We're doing that because basically most black people believe that it is the government's job. Their fundamental job is to provide jobs, opportunities, and money in order for blacks to survive. You will get in a heated discussion with most black people if you question those principles. And, that's an issue. If you think that it's the government's job to pay your bills, provide, and then, and I'm talking about affluent people. I'm not just talking about poor people that literally survive from the government. I'm talking about the most affluent, upwardly mobile black people that make 70, 100 or more. You talk to them in conversations, they're talking, when they go to the polls, when they go to government, they're talking about welfare, Section 8, food stamps. That scares us. That motivates us to go vote. Well, I'm not on food stamps. I'm not, and most black people aren't. But that's an issue we vote on. Not loans, not businesses, not things that will empower, because we think the government's job is primarily to take care of the poor. That's dangerous. Did you see what she just said? She said, we don't have money, you figure it out. When I talk, and you can see where I'm consistent. When I talk about black men, I say we're what? Problem solvers. That's what men are supposed to be, problem solvers. But black people as a whole, collectively, whenever you come with this mentality, now, I respect Yvette Carnell, and that's why I said in my other video, you can be intelligent and ignorant and wrong at the same time.
How much money, like the budget, how many, billions and trillions of dollars we have in a budget. So, and nobody asked, well, where you gonna find that money? We got the money. So don't tell me we don't have the money. And I ain't gotta figure out, I'm not an accountant. I'm not your accountant. I don't have to figure out, how's he gonna pay for this? No, you said you're gonna pay for it, Bernie. When you get in there, you figure out how to pay for it. And when you don't have anything, that's what you do. Black people don't have money. We don't have wealth. When you don't have money and you don't have wealth, that's what you do. You say you figure it out. If you promise, if somebody promises you, if somebody comes to your house tomorrow and you don't have anything to eat and they say, I'm going to buy you groceries, you don't say, well, where you going to get the money from? Where do you work at? You just say, go get me groceries. I'm hungry. That's all you say. This is insane.
You can, but you could be intelligent. I think Yvette Carnell is very intelligent, and in many issues, she's dead on. She hits the nail on the head. But I mean, that was probably one of the most ignorant things I've ever heard her say. But therein is the issue. Now, on the flip side, like for example, people will point to Sweden, for example, as a glaring example of what socialism could be. But let's look deeper into Sweden. Let's look at that.
What do most Americans think about when they think of Sweden? Music, the Muppets? Maybe.
But I'd put my money on something else. The iconic Swedish model.
Whenever they profile the Swedes, they always seem to be so happy and beautiful.
Compared to most other nations, Sweden is a success story. But why is Sweden successful?
Many credit Sweden's generous welfare state and progressive policies with creating a standard of living that is among the best in the world.
Can the rest of the world learn from Sweden?
If you're willing to, yes.
Many think we should be more like them.
If an American would tell me that, the U.S. should be more like Sweden, I would say, I don't think it's possible.
Dr. Charlotta Stern is a sociologist at Stockholm University.
The U.S. is a very diverse society, whereas Sweden is, or at least has been up to modern times, very homogeneous. People have looked the same, had the same religion, they speak the same language.
Some people feel that Sweden grew rich because of social democracy or labor unions, but that's not the reason Sweden grew rich. Sweden grew rich like any country that is rich, through well-functioning capitalist institutions. Sweden grew rich like any country that is rich, through well-functioning capitalist institutions. Well-functioning capitalist institutions, work, trade, innovation.
That, says Berg, is what transformed the poverty-stricken Sweden of the late 19th century into one of the world's richest nations.
I mean, so as you can see, the Swedish people are just as productive as the Japanese. And thus that is what basically funds their system. It wouldn't work if they didn't have a certain level or they weren't past what we would call critical mass. So that's the key word, Can we get enough of our people trained and producing enough where they have discretionary and disposable income to be able to go in and shop, patronize businesses within a certain segment or subculture or group, and thus, lift that community. If I have $10,000 and I'm going shopping, for Christmas or whatever, and I want to spend it all on black businesses, that would benefit a lot of black businesses. In fact, there's certain parts of Atlanta where I could actually do that. So, but the major issue is you have so many people that, I call it a sleight of hand. They're teaching Marxism. They're Marxist, and they don't believe that, you're intelligent or you're, I guess, what's the word, crafty enough. Although we are the wealthiest black people on the face of the earth, still not enough. Still not enough. I have tons of videos on my channel where I show, I don't play laziness. I don't play, I wouldn't say laziness. I just don't play excuses. I really don't. Until you've given it all you have, until you've went out and done what you're supposed to do and mobilized and taken action, then you cannot point the finger at, well, I just don't have the straps. Everybody talks about pull themselves up with their bootstraps. We don't have them. Bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Brothers like this brother here, Tone Talks, and Yvette Carnell, I mean, I respect them, but I do think, now, if I were ever on their channel and we ever had a discussion, I would agree with them as far as the statistics that they drop. I agree. Yeah, that is where we are right now. But I have a different worldview as to what could happen if we focus. It's not our focus. We're not, that's not even, we don't even understand what human capital is. We don't understand the word productivity. Because if you understand that word, then you'll say, well, man, I'm going to increase my own productivity. I'm going to increase my human capital, because human capital can refer to one individual. Hence, think about it. I'm offering you a course on Salesforce, which can take your human capital from, per annum, you may be able to grow 50,000, 60,000 to, I can get you north of, I ain't gonna say I can, but if you focus and listen, you can get north of 85, 90, 100, whatever. The average black person's human capital is around 30, 36, somewhere in there, because black women are 34, black men are 38. Average that out, it's around $36,000 a year. That's what the average black person makes. So when you increase your human capital and double that, what could you do with that?
things that I really realize about this wealth is we don't understand timing as well. So when I say timing as well, we don't understand what just happened as far as a major shift in terms of new people getting into any kind of money. The kind of shift we saw has consolidated wealth. And when they say wealth, it means that there's not going to be new chances to come from the mailroom and become the CEO. That's done. And we got to get honest about that. Malcolm Gladwell, and I want everybody reading this, listening to this, to maybe go pick it up, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. He did this analysis, and what he showed is, I'm gonna share this. Is Bill Gates a billionaire? He probably wouldn't have started Microsoft if he hadn't been born in 1955. That made Gates old enough to take advantage of the opportunity that opened up with the introduction in 1975 of the Altair 8800, the first do-it-yourself computer kit. But he wasn't so old to be settled in his life and not take a leap of faith. Also, his father was one of the best trademark attorneys in Seattle. And then they continue on. They say, coincidence? Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen was born in 53. Apple founder Steve Jobs was born in 55. And Sun Microsoft Systems founder Bill Joy was born in 54. So like, you're looking at whiteness, wealth, and timing. You're looking at whiteness, wealth, and timing. Not just coding. And like, they make Bill Gates sound like he came from Compton or Zuckerberg. Dude, folks, his daddy was one of the top trademark attorneys in Seattle. You put that with his computer thing, he was ahead of the game. And so like, was he a billionaire already? No. And so like, but how like, if you have that kind of like access and nobody else does, putting it all together, I guess, has value. Even President Obama has admitted this with his recent quote where he said, that quote is so powerful. He basically says that I'm tired of successful people acting like luck isn't part of it. And luck is a huge part of it.
The thing that I would like to get through to black people is that stop thinking that your desire and your, to be great is bigger than the institutions and bigger than the structures that exist in this country. Like, these people are wealthy not because they were just go-getters. Or I see all this crap online about, here are 20 things you can do to be a rich person. He act like rich people. Start, get up at this time and you stay up to this time and you check email at this time. No, that's not how to get rich. Rich people didn't do that.
See, they ignored. See, in this video, he was just ignoring the fact that Bill Gates. See, and even in the book, The Outliers, you listen to what he said. Bill Gates spent 10,000 hours coding, and he became good at it because his parents lived adjacent to a university. He had access. If you think I'm lying, go read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. He details this in great detail about how much time William Gates spent coding to become William Gates. Yes, did he have certain things at his disposal? Yes, I'm not denying that. But what I'm saying is, what is at your disposal? Bill Gates didn't have the internet either. Bill Gates didn't have a damn encyclopedia that he could hold in his hand called a cell phone. Bill Gates didn't have YouTube. Bill Gates didn't have Salesforce certifications that if he studied for a year, he could be out here making $250,000, $300,000 as a Salesforce architect. He didn't have that. But you do. You have that at your disposal. You can, look, if you listen to what I'm telling you, you can be the $350,000 person. You can make that $250,000 easy. I'm not just talking. I'm speaking from, you talking to somebody that literally went from making, what was I making as a produce manager? $13.50 an hour. And I've made 5 times that. You know what I'm saying? I can make 5 times that an hour doing what I do now. I jumped. So if I can do it, you can do it. I know that's what they refuse. I was just lucky. I don't think it was luck. I don't believe in luck. It's providence. It's taking, overcoming your own mental blocks and going out there and doing what you have to do. That's just that. Black people do it every day. You're no different than anybody else. I'm gonna start in this video right now, but what I'll do is I'm gonna cut this into sections. So right now I'm at this piece, but I'll bring you the rest later. But thank you, because this video can turn into a 3-hour video if I make it into one video. So thank you.
You're pushing my love a little bit too far. I don't think you know how blessed you are.